Good morning, everybody. This morning we announced to our staff that Turner Broadcasting, Time Warner, has sold WCW World Championship Wrestling, Inc. to Fusient Media Ventures.
I have to start with All Elite Wrestling. The website TheWrap.com clarified a story that broke in the wrestling news media this week about AEW having a done deal. Having a done deal supposedly with Turner Sports that would likely put its weekly television show on the TNT network starting this fall. In fact, there have been advanced talks between Turner and AEW, but actual contracts have not been signed yet. So it is not a done deal. There are said to be two different proposals on the table for AEW, and this has been the case, I think Meltzer's mentioned this for months now, that they had two more than solid offers on the table that they were reviewing, considering, evaluating for what would be considered to be major cable networks. And the Turner rumor has been around for a while. I mean, even I heard that a few weeks ago, at a show I was at. I mean, the Turner rumors have been around for several weeks now. Jim Ross has kind of danced around it when he's done podcast and radio interviews, and he said, look, there's a huge deal on the table, and it would be for a 2-hour show, and it would debut in October, but I can't give any more details. He's being very coy about it. But that has been the situation for a while now. And the rumor is that Turner Sports is going to present, and this is why this is bubbled up now, present AEW at their television upfronts to advertisers, which is coming up on May 15th. The TV upfronts are basically presentations made by each network to preview all of their upcoming series that are coming out in the fall to potential advertisers. They kind of shop it to potential advertisers. The stars from the shows usually show up there. They do meet and greets. They take pictures. It's a whole big schmooze fest, basically. So that's coming up on May 15th. And the belief is that Turner is going to be, in effect, shopping around this new rumored AEW show to potential advertisers. Now, this is potentially a huge deal because pro wrestling has not been on the Turner Network since the death of WCW in 2001. And the death of WCW really happened. I mean, it was already on the way down, but what killed WCW at the end of the day was Jamie Kellner. Jamie Kellner was a Turner programming executive who hated wrestling and had no liking for it, did not want it to be part of the Turner Sports family anymore. He was the one who made the call to cancel Thunder and Nitro, which basically killed WCW. It killed the deal that Eric Bischoff had put together with an investor, Fusient Ventures, and that's where that audio you heard at the top of the show comes into play here. That was from a conference call. You heard the audio. They were announcing that Fusient had purchased WCW. They were talking about it as though it was a done deal. And once the television went away, which was the most valuable asset, that WCW had, I mean, you can argue the tape library was, but at the time, the television is really what gave WCW, if they were going to keep the brand alive, any of the value that it had. So without TV, the investors pulled out because they felt it had no value anymore. If I remember, I think they were going to sell WCW to them. It was like a $75 million deal, which again just makes you shake your head when you think about the fact that Vince McMahon swooped in and picked the bones and bought WCW for, I think, $2.5 million. Everybody assumed it was a done deal. It just goes to show you the deal is never done until it is done. And I think everybody needs to remember that here with AEW as well. Eric Bischoff thought he had a deal to buy WCW until he didn't. But TNT and TBS are still two of the biggest cable networks in the entire country. USA Network, I think, ranks only slightly ahead of TNT in terms of overall viewership. And TNT is where AEW is rumored to land if the deal is done. Turner has multiple networks. I mean, they have TNT, they have TBS. I think they own Cartoon Network, True TV, which I think used to be the former Court TV. So they have multiple channels that potentially AEW could end up on. I don't know about AEW on True TV, but look, it's possible. I think that would be a huge come down if they were to end up on one of those stations and not TNT or TBS. But TNT is the rumored landing destination. Now, per the Observer, the idea would be for a 2-hour live weekly television show, as well as some sort of streaming deal on top of that. You know, TNT has a streaming service, Bleacher Report Live. There could be some tie-in there. Maybe AEW big pay-per-view shows end up on the streaming service. There's just a lot of moving parts to this thing. The show would not air on Mondays. It would not air on Fridays to go head-to-head with WWE, which only makes sense. I mean, we all saw what happened to TNA on a strong network. Monday nights, head-to-head. And that was a company with 8 years of being established. TNA at that point had 8 years of history behind it with established names. And they went head-to-head on... Look, Spike was a big network. Maybe, again, it was ranked a little below USA, but it was I would consider that a major cable network, and they got absolutely crushed. They got absolutely devastated and had to limp back, I think, to Thursday nights. So, right out of the gate, it would make no sense to put an AEW show that you're trying to establish head-to-head with an existing wrestling show. To go head-to-head would be a terrible way to establish a new brand, and to get wrestling fans to check out your show, because we could talk until we're blue in the face about how awful Monday Night Raw is on most weeks. A lot of people watch the show out of habit. Monday night is wrestling night. Monday night is Raw night. They're not going to abandon Raw in large numbers and go watch this brand new show that they've never seen before. Although having names like Chris Jericho and Jim Ross certainly doesn't hurt, which is why I think it was smart for them to sign them up. Now, I was at Raw Monday night at the Barclays Center. I sat in front of two fans, so I had these two guys sitting behind me, in the row behind me. During the main event, when the crowd turned on the show, rightfully, among the chants that they started, and I don't know if this came across on TV or not, I heard it happen during the commercial break, you might have heard a little bit of it on TV. Being there in the building, let me tell you, it was loud. The AEW chants during that main event were loud, they were noticeable, they were unavoidable. You could not be in the building that night and not know that the people were chanting AEW. And when that started, these two guys behind me got really hot. They were just shouting, "You're all cheering for a t-shirt company. They're just a t-shirt company. You're all just a bunch of marks." I mean, they were really angry. Like, you would think they had like stock options or something in WWE. They were angry at the people chanting AEW during that main event. As if, and by the way, you're calling everybody a bunch of marks, as though you're not sitting in a crowd at a wrestling show, but you're going to call other people marks. Not too bright now, are we? But I had to sit there and listen to this for 10 minutes. I mean, like I said, they were very upset. Nothing would make me happier than to be able to shut those people up. But I get it. Some people are just tired of all the hype. They feel that this thing is being way too overhyped. They have not run a single show yet. I get it. But those people need to understand something. What's going on here, this is very real. How many times over the years have we heard about, a new promotion is going to sprout up, or Wrestling Revolution Project, or the next, everything's revolutionary, right? Everything's going to change the face of wrestling. Everything is going to make wrestling fun again. And look, Impact's been around for 18 years now, and certainly they've gone through a lot of different iterations and ownership changes and things of that nature. And you have something unique like a Lucha Underground that will come along every now and then. Now, Lucha Underground didn't really gain enough traction to survive. I think they're pretty much all done at this point. But I love Lucha Underground. It was something different. It's just too bad it couldn't end up on a major cable network. But, it was a niche show, it was a niche product, but I enjoyed it. And I think we need to see more of that sort of thing in wrestling. But what people have really been clamoring for are something on the level of a WCW, right? I think it's nice to have these little projects and these little shows and things of that nature. And a lot of these things are air on Fight TV and other streaming services, so you can watch them. Some put their shows on YouTube. I would dare say that most, indie promotions worth anything, at the very least, put their shows up on YouTube. Like even Booker T does it with his Reality of Wrestling promotion. He puts all of his shows on YouTube. A lot of different promotions do that. There's a big difference between putting your shows on YouTube and being on a network like a TNT or a TBS or some other major station. And that, I think, is what people have been waiting a very long time for. This here is very real. When you look at the money they have behind this project, and you look at some of the big names that they've already signed. Chris Jericho didn't have to sign a contract with these guys. Chris Jericho had the sweetest gig in the world. He had the freedom to be a free agent, to do his own thing, to sign little contracts whenever he felt like going back to WWE and getting a big payday or going to Saudi Arabia, and then he can just leave whenever he wanted to. And he could do some matches in New Japan, and he could do his gigs with Fozzy and do the music thing when he wanted to go on the road and tour and do that. Guy's almost 50 years old. He had the sweetest gig in the world, and he locked himself into a 3-year contract with a totally new wrestling company that is going to compete with WWE on some level. Even if that isn't their goal, it's just natural. There's going to be a competition there. At the very least, there's going to be a competition for talent. Right? You can't work for AEW and WWE. A lot of guys are going to have to make a decision. There's going to be WWE people who are frustrated, who want to leave and may end up in AEW very soon. Some big names, potentially. So this idea of competition, it's unavoidable, even if AEW wants to be friendly with everybody. That's not how WWE is going to see it. The fact they got people like Jericho to sign long-term deals and potentially burn bridges with WWE and Vince McMahon says a lot about how serious that he feels this is and that they take things. So they've signed some big names already. You know, and we're talking about serious TV negotiations going on here. We're not talking about Destination America. We're not talking about Pop TV or the Pursuit Channel. These are real networks with a legitimate reach into the tens of millions. So this is not just a t-shirt company. This is the closest thing to a truly major league promotion in 18 years. Since the death of WCW. That's why people are so excited. The death of WCW was the worst thing to ever happen to pro wrestling in this country. Bar none. A lot of people tuned out. They never tuned back in again. A lot of people are unhappy about what WWE is feeding them every week. A lot of WWE performers are unhappy with what WWE is feeding them every week. Seems like every week we read stories about this person being unhappy and this person tweeting, cryptic nonsense and all this other kind of stuff. Every week. People want to see this thing succeed, and there are some people who want to see it fail. Those people are not real wrestling fans. Real wrestling fans want to see more competition in the marketplace, not less. So even if you personally have no desire at all to watch AEW, a bunch of vanilla midgets and indie spot monkeys and this and that, whatever nonsense you want to spout off with at the mouth, fine. You don't have to want to watch AEW, but you should want it to succeed. But they need a TV deal, and they need to get that Vegas show under their belt May 25th. And I think if not at those TV upfronts on the 15th, that Double or Nothing show would be a great time in the building that night to make the official announcement of a new AEW TV show. So hopefully they can finalize things before then. I don't think they could let this drag out beyond that Double or Nothing show. I think they're going to have to make some kind of announcement within the next, where are we now, the 14th? Sometime in the next 6 weeks. They really need to try to make that official announcement to really ratchet up the excitement and prove to people that this is real. This is not fantasy. This is not pie in the sky. This is not, it looks good on paper. That this is real. A Turner deal could be a potential game changer. Plain and simple. No other mainstream network has been willing to give pro wrestling a chance since Spike dropped Impact in 2014. The fact that one, an even bigger one, might soon do so is a reason for, I think, all wrestling fans to be excited. Cautiously excited. But a reason for all of them to be excited. But they have to get the deal done first. Let us learn from the lessons of Eric Bischoff in 2001. It is not a done deal until the deal is done.